Today we're going to talk about ecology. This is going to be chapter 3. Should be a very quick review for us. This shouldn't be anything new, and it's pretty easy stuff. So let's begin. So studying our planet. When we're talking about looking at the planet, looking at the environment, this is really ecology. We are studying the Earth itself, or the biosphere. The biosphere is all of life on Earth and all of the parts on Earth where life exists. So underneath the ground, where there's still life, in the deepest parts of the ocean, up into the air, because we still have life that exists off of the surface of the ground. The biosphere extends from 8 kilometers above the Earth's surface to 11 kilometers below the Earth's surface. What is ecology? Ecology is the study of the interactions between organisms and their environment. The scientists who study ecology are called ecologists. And what they are concerned with is the interactions in the biosphere and that interdependence of the organisms that are found in the environments and how they all help each other survive and the effects that they have on each other. When we are talking about ecology, we need to talk about biotic and abiotic factors. So if we look back to our root words that we learned at the beginning of the year, we know that bio, B-I-O, means living, and a means not. So when we look at abiotic and biotic factors, we're talking about the living things in the ecosystem, like the plants, the animals, the bacteria, anything that is living, and the non-living things, or the abiotic factors. Things like water, temperature, sunlight, the pH of something. The interactions between biotic and abiotic factors determine the numbers and the kinds of organisms that can survive in an ecosystem. Scientists, we talked before, they like organization, they like order, they like things, in a certain way. We have a hierarchy. Remember, we did a hierarchy before where we started with atoms come together to make molecules. Molecules come together to make organelles, and organelles come together to make cells, and cells come together to make an organism. We're going to continue with that level of hierarchy. Now we're going from organism to population to community to ecosystem to biome to biosphere. This is a hierarchy from one thing building up into the entire Earth. So let's talk about these levels of organization. The lowest level of organization would be the organism itself. When you have a group of like species in the same area, that's a population. So we could say the population of deer in New Kensington. It's all of the same species in a specific area. Then we have a community. A community is a bunch of different populations that live together in a defined area. So that would be, let's say, the turkey, the geese, the deer, all the little birds, the plants, all in New Kensington. They're in one specific defined area. That's a community. An ecosystem is all of the organisms that live in that place and their physical environment. So that now includes things like the water, the temperature, the sunlight, along with all of those living things. A biome is a group of ecosystems that share similar climates. You should have learned about biomes before. Your biomes are things like the tundra and the taiga and the grasslands. They have similar climates and similar organisms that can be found there. And then finally, we have the biosphere, which is all of the planet with all of its living things and all of those physical environments. Section 2, energies, producers, and consumers. When we talk about our ecosystems, all living things need energy. Remember, that's one of those characteristics of life. I told you we would be coming back to those all year long. No organism can create energy. It has to get energy from somewhere. The ultimate source of energy for all living things is sunlight. Producers or autotrophs are organisms that get their energy directly from sunlight. Autotrophs are also called primary producers or producers. Commonly, you would refer to these as plants. They're organisms that can take and make their own energy from chemicals or sunlight. Photosynthesis is the process that plants use in order to capture energy from the sun and power the chemical reactions to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose. That's sugar that it needs in order to have energy for its cells. This process takes carbon dioxide out of the environment and adds oxygen. Consumers are organisms that have to get their energy by consuming or eating something. These are what we call heterotrophs. Hetero means different, opposite, or outside. So a heterotroph gets its energy from eating or consuming something. So that's why we also call it a consumer. Autotroph, auto means self. So an autotroph is one that can make its own food. We can classify the types of consumers we have in a couple of ways. We classify consumers by the way in which they get their energy and their nutrients. Some of these terms should be familiar to you. Carnivore, scavenger, decomposer, herbivore, omnivore, and detrivore. Most of those should be familiar to you. If you look at these, what kind of animals are these? What type of feeders are these? They are carnivores. Carnivores mean that they eat and kill only animals. They feed on prey. Examples would be polar bears, tigers, lions, snakes. These aren't the only ones that are carnivores. When you look at these animals, a clue to figure out what kind of feeder they are to think about their teeth. Carnivores have sharp, pointy teeth. Think about these animals. They have flatter teeth. These are herbivores. They feed on plants, roots, seeds, fruits. They need those flat teeth to take and grind the food up. So they have flatter teeth. Examples would be rabbits, giraffe, cows, horses. Omnivores are ones that eat both plant and animals. Humans would be classified as omnivores. Think about what humans' teeth are. There's a combination of sharper teeth and flatter teeth because our diet is mixed. Other examples of omnivores would be brown bears, raccoons, possums, and gorillas. Scavengers can also fall into some of those other categories where we could classify them like the vultures you see there. They only eat carrion, which is dead meat. So we could also say that they could be classified as, say, a carnivore, but they are scavengers because they don't hunt and kill their prey. They feed on things that have already died. Examples of scavengers would be vultures, snails, crayfish, jackals, possums. Decomposers are organisms that break down dead and decaying material. This is what they feed on, is dead and decaying material. This process returns the nutrients to the soil so that they can be reused again by organisms. Because remember our rule from last chapter, that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. What they produce during this is a material called detritus. That's the small pieces of dead and decaying plant and animal remains. Examples of this would be molds, funguses like mushrooms or toadstools, and bacteria. Detrivores feed on the detritus from our decomposers. They chew it and grind it down into smaller pieces. This is really what happens when somebody is composting. They make the soil richer with this. They return those nutrients and minerals to the soil. They commonly digest decomposers that live on and in the detritus. Examples are worms and other small aquatic insects. This ends section 1 and 2 notes for chapter 3.